Sarah Martinez had always been different. Growing up in a small Texas town where most girls dreamed of prom dresses and cheerleading, she spent her afternoons taking apart radios and rebuilding motorcycle engines in her father's garage. Her father, Miguel, was a retired Army mechanic who taught her that precision and patience were the most valuable tools anyone could possess. "Mija," he would say, watching her delicate fingers work through complex wiring. "Your hands see what your eyes cannot. That is a gift." Sarah's gift became apparent early. By age 16, she could diagnose engine problems just by listening to the sound. By 18, she had earned scholarships to 3 different engineering schools. But when her father suffered a massive heart attack during her sophomore year at MIT, everything changed. She returned home to find their family garage drowning in debt, and her mother, Rosa, working 3 jobs to keep food on the table. Sarah made a decision that surprised everyone except those who truly knew her. She enlisted in the Navy. "But your education," her mother protested, tears streaming down her weathered face. "Education comes in many forms, Mama. The Navy will teach me things no classroom ever could." Sarah was right. Naval training revealed abilities she never knew she possessed. Her instructors quickly noticed her exceptional spatial awareness and problem-solving skills. While other recruits struggled with complex navigation systems, Sarah intuited them. While others memorized procedures, she understood the underlying principles that made everything work. After basic training, Sarah was assigned to Naval Special Warfare as a communications specialist. It was rare for someone so young to receive such an assignment, but her test scores and recommendations made her an obvious choice. She would be working with the most elite units in the military, including Navy SEALs. Her first assignment was at Naval Amphibious Base Coronado in California. The base buzzed with constant activity. Helicopters thundered overhead at all hours. Teams of incredibly fit men moved with purpose across the compound, their faces serious and focused. Sarah felt both intimidated and exhilarated. Chief Petty Officer David Chen was her initial supervisor. He was a compact man with graying temples and eyes that seemed to catalog everything around him. He had worked with Special Operations for 15 years and had seen countless young sailors come and go. "Martinez," he said on her first day, "you're here because someone believes you have potential. But potential means nothing without execution. These teams depend on flawless communication. One mistake, one moment of confusion, and good people die. Do you understand?" "Yes, Chief," Sarah replied, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Good. Now let me show you what you'll be working with." The communications center was a marvel of technology. Banks of monitors displayed real-time feeds from operations around the world. Radio equipment that cost more than most people's houses lined the walls. Sarah felt like she had stepped into the future. "This is where miracles happen," Chief Chen explained. "When a SEAL team is pinned down in hostile territory, we're their lifeline. When they need extraction, we coordinate it. When they need intelligence, we provide it. We are their eyes and ears when they can't see or hear for themselves." Sarah threw herself into learning every system, every protocol, every backup procedure. She arrived early and stayed late. While other communications specialists handled routine traffic, Sarah volunteered for the complex assignments. She studied operational patterns and memorized call signs for dozens of units. Her dedication didn't go unnoticed. Within 6 months, she was handling communications for high-priority missions. The SEAL teams began requesting her specifically for their operations. They trusted her voice, her competence, her unshakable calm under pressure. The first real test came during a hostage rescue operation in a remote part of Afghanistan. A team of 6 SEALs had inserted into hostile territory to extract 2 American aid workers who had been captured by Taliban forces. The operation was supposed to be quick and clean. It wasn't. Sarah was on duty when the emergency transmission crackled through her headset. Overwatch, this is Trident 6. We're taking heavy fire from the north. Need immediate air support and extraction options. The voice belonged to Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison, the team leader. Sarah had spoken with him dozens of times during training exercises, but this was different. She could hear the sharp crack of gunfire in the background and the controlled urgency in his voice. Trident 6, this is Overwatch. Copy your situation. Stand by for support options. Sarah's fingers flew across her console, pulling up satellite imagery, weather data, and available aircraft positions. 2 Apache helicopters were 20 minutes away, too far. A drone with missile capability was 8 minutes out, but couldn't provide extraction. Her mind raced through alternatives. Overwatch, we've got wounded. Need options now? Morrison's voice crackled again. That's when Sarah noticed something others had missed. According to the topographical data, there was a dried riverbed running east-west about 200 meters south of the team's position. It was too narrow for a traditional landing zone, but a skilled pilot in a smaller aircraft might be able to use it. Trident 6, there's a possible extract point at grid reference 8-7-2-4-9-6. Dried riverbed runs east-west. You'd need to move 200 meters south, but it's concealed from the northern threat. Overwatch, that's negative. No aircraft available for that type of insertion. Sarah's heart pounded. She knew she was about to make a decision that could either save lives or end her career. She switched to a different frequency and contacted the nearby forward operating base directly. Viper Base, this is Overwatch. Emergency request for immediate air support. Do you have any rotary wing aircraft capable of confined area landing? Overwatch, we've got one little bird on standby. Pilot's name is Rodriguez. What's the situation? Chief Warrant Officer Carmen Rodriguez was a legend among helicopter pilots. She could land anywhere and had never left a team behind. Sarah quickly briefed her on the situation. I can make that landing, Rodriguez confirmed. But I'll need perfect guidance. The margins are razor thin. Understood. Trident 6, are you monitoring this frequency? Affirmative, Overwatch. We'll move to the extract point. For the next 10 minutes, Sarah coordinated one of the most complex rescue operations she had ever been involved in. She guided the SEAL team through hostile territory while simultaneously directing Rodriguez's approach through mountainous terrain in complete darkness. Viper 1, you're approaching from the east. There's a rock formation at your 10 o'clock that extends about 40 feet above the deck. The landing zone is just past that. Copy, Overwatch. I see the formation. Trident 6, I need you to mark the zone. Marking now with infrared strobe. Sarah watched the operation unfold on multiple screens. Satellite imagery showed the team's movement. Radio chatter kept her updated on their status. Aircraft tracking showed Rodriguez's helicopter weaving through the mountains. Viper 1, you're 1 minute out. Trident 6, what's your status? We're in position. Zone is clear. 1 wounded but mobile. Viper 1, the zone is approximately 100 meters long by 15 meters wide. You'll have power lines on approach, so come in steep and fast. Roger that, Overwatch. Beginning my approach. The next 60 seconds felt like an eternity. Sarah listened to Rodriguez's breathing, Morrison's situation reports, and the steady background noise of distant gunfire. Then suddenly it was over. Overwatch. This is Viper 1. Package is secure. All souls aboard. Departing the area. Sarah slumped back in her chair, only then realizing she had been holding her breath. Chief Chen appeared beside her console. Outstanding work, Martinez. That was some of the finest communications coordination I've ever witnessed. But the real validation came 2 days later when Lieutenant Commander Morrison visited the communications center. He was a tall man with intense blue eyes and the confident bearing that came from years of leading men in impossible situations. I wanted to thank you personally, he said to Sarah. Your quick thinking saved my team. That riverbed extraction was brilliant. How did you spot something our mission planners missed? Sarah felt her cheeks flush. I just looked at the data differently, sir. Sometimes a fresh perspective helps. Morrison studied her for a moment. You're wasted here, Martinez. Have you ever considered advanced training? What kind of advanced training, sir? The kind that could make you one of the most valuable communications specialists in naval special warfare. That conversation changed everything. Within a month, Sarah was enrolled in advanced programs that most sailors could only dream of. She studied satellite communications, encrypted protocols, psychological operations, and battlefield medicine. She learned to speak 3 languages and became certified in underwater communication systems. But the real education came from working directly with SEAL teams. She began accompanying them on training exercises, learning how they thought, how they moved, how they made decisions under pressure. The SEALs, initially skeptical of having a young woman in their midst, gradually came to respect her competence and dedication. Petty Officer First Class Mike Torres was one of the first to accept her fully. He was a demolitions expert from California who had served 4 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. "You know what I like about you, Martinez?" he said one evening as they worked late, preparing communication plans for a training exercise. "You don't try to be one of the guys. You just do your job better than most of the guys." "Thank you, Torres. That means a lot. I'm serious. Half the people we work with are trying so hard to fit in that they forget why they're here. You never forget the mission comes first." As months turned into years, Sarah's reputation grew throughout naval special warfare. She became known as someone who could solve impossible problems, who remained calm when everything fell apart, who could be trusted with the most sensitive operations. Her family back in Texas struggled to understand her career path. During rare visits home, she couldn't explain what she did or where she had been. Her mother worried constantly, while her father expressed quiet pride in her accomplishments. "You found your place in the world, Misha," he said during her last visit before his death. "That is all any parent can hope for their child." Sarah threw herself even deeper into her work after losing her father. She volunteered for every challenging assignment, every dangerous deployment, every opportunity to prove herself. Her superiors began considering her for positions that had never been held by women. The breakthrough came when Admiral Patricia Sullivan, the first female admiral in naval special warfare, personally requested Sarah for her staff. Admiral Sullivan was a legend in her own right, having broken barriers throughout her career while maintaining the respect of even the most traditional officers. "Martinez," Admiral Sullivan said during their first meeting, "I've been following your career. Your performance ratings are exceptional. Your peer reviews are unanimous. But I have a question for you. Why do you want to be here?" Sarah had been asked this question many times, but never by someone who genuinely seemed to want an honest answer. "Because this is where I can make the biggest difference, ma'am. These teams perform missions that keep our country safe. If I can help them succeed, if I can help bring them home safely, then everything else is worth it." Admiral Sullivan nodded slowly. "That's the right answer. Now let me tell you about an opportunity that could change your entire career." The opportunity was unlike anything Sarah had imagined. Admiral Sullivan was forming a new unit, one that would integrate the most advanced communication technologies with special operations teams. Sarah would be one of the first specialists trained in these systems. "This is experimental," Admiral Sullivan warned. "The failure rate is high. The training is brutal. Many people who start this program don't finish. But if you succeed, you'll be at the forefront of how we conduct special operations for the next decade." Sarah didn't hesitate. "When do I start, ma'am?" The training was indeed brutal. For 6 months, Sarah endured physical conditioning that pushed her to her absolute limits. She learned to operate in every environment from Arctic conditions to tropical jungles. She mastered weapons systems, survival techniques, and advanced electronics. But the hardest part was earning acceptance from her fellow trainees. Most were veteran SEALs, Rangers, or Special Operations personnel from other branches. They had years of combat experience and deep bonds forged in battle. Sarah was the outsider, the woman, the communications specialist trying to run with elite warriors. Some made their skepticism clear. Others simply ignored her. A few were openly hostile. Sarah endured it all with quiet determination, focusing on her performance rather than their attitudes. The turning point came during a simulated mission in the Nevada desert. Sarah's team was tasked with establishing communications for a complex, multi-unit operation. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Equipment failed. Weather interfered with satellite signals. Enemy forces located and attacked their position. While others panicked or fell back on standard procedures, Sarah improvised solutions. She jury-rigged damaged equipment using spare parts from unrelated systems. She established alternative communication routes using frequency bands others hadn't considered. She coordinated the evacuation of wounded team members while maintaining contact with multiple units. When the exercise ended, Master Chief Petty Officer Frank Williams, the senior instructor, addressed the entire group. This week, I watched all of you operate under extreme pressure. Most of you performed adequately. A few performed poorly. One of you performed at a level I've rarely seen in 25 years of military service. He paused, looking directly at Sarah. Martinez, that was some of the finest improvisation and leadership I've ever witnessed. Anyone who questions your place on this team needs to examine their own performance. From that moment, everything changed. Her fellow trainees began seeking her advice, including her in their discussions, treating her as an equal member of the team. She had proven herself in the crucible of elite training, and they respected that achievement. Sarah graduated at the top of her class, earning recognition as the outstanding student of her training cycle. But more importantly, she had gained something that couldn't be taught: the unshakable confidence that comes from knowing you belong where you are. As she prepared for her first assignment with her new unit, Sarah reflected on the journey that had brought her to this point. From a small-town girl working in her father's garage to a specialist in one of the military's most elite organizations, she had consistently exceeded expectations while staying true to herself. She thought about her father's words about her hands seeing what her eyes could not. In many ways, that gift had guided her entire career. She could see solutions where others saw only problems. She could find paths where others encountered only obstacles. Now, as she prepared to work with the most elite warriors in the American military, Sarah knew that her greatest challenges still lay ahead. But she also knew that she was ready for whatever came next. 2 years after completing her advanced training, Petty Officer First Class Sarah Martinez found herself aboard the USS Wasp, a massive amphibious assault ship cutting through the dark waters of the Mediterranean Sea. The ship carried a full complement of Marines and Navy SEALs, along with the most sophisticated communication equipment in the naval inventory. Sarah had been assigned to SEAL Team 7 as their primary communications specialist, a position that typically went to personnel with at least 5 years of combat experience. At 24, she was younger than most of the team members, but her reputation had preceded her. The team's commanding officer was Lieutenant Commander Marcus Thompson, a 15-year veteran who had earned his reputation in the mountains of Afghanistan and the streets of Iraq. He was known for his meticulous planning and his ability to bring his men home safely from impossible missions. "Martinez," Thompson said during their first briefing, "I've read your file. Impressive work, but I need to know something. This team has been together for 3 years. We trust each other completely. Every man here has saved someone else's life and had his own life saved in return. How do we know you'll fit into that brotherhood?" Sarah looked around the room at the 8 men who comprised Team 7. They were all watching her carefully, evaluating her response. She understood that this moment would define her relationship with the team for months or years to come. "Sir, I can't promise that I'll fit into your brotherhood," she replied. What I can promise is that I'll do everything in my power to help each of you come home alive from every mission. If that earns me a place in your brotherhood, then I'll be honored. If it doesn't, I'll still do my job to the best of my ability." Master Chief Petty Officer Robert Bear Patterson, the team's senior enlisted man, nodded approvingly. Patterson was a mountain of a man who had served with distinction for over 20 years. His approval carried weight with the entire team. "That's a good answer, Martinez. Actions will tell us the rest." Sarah's first real test came sooner than anyone expected. The team received orders for a reconnaissance mission along the Syrian coast. Intelligence indicated that a high-value target, a Taliban commander who had escaped from Afghanistan, was operating from a compound near the port city of Latakia. The mission was supposed to be simple: infiltrate, observe, report. No direct action unless absolutely necessary. Sarah would coordinate communications from a concealed position while the team moved closer to the target. They inserted via Zodiac boats in the early morning hours, approaching the coastline under cover of darkness. Sarah carried nearly 60 pounds of communication equipment in addition to her standard gear. The weight didn't bother her. Months of training had conditioned her body to handle extreme physical demands. The team moved inland with practiced efficiency. Sarah marveled at how 8 men could move through rocky terrain in complete silence. They communicated through hand signals and brief radio whispers, every movement calculated and precise. They established their observation post in an abandoned building overlooking the target compound. Sarah set up her equipment, while the team positioned themselves for maximum visual coverage. Everything proceeded according to plan until the 3rd day of surveillance. At 0347 hours, Sarah's monitoring equipment detected unusual radio traffic from the compound. Someone was transmitting on encrypted frequencies, but the patterns didn't match known Syrian military protocols. She made a decision that would prove crucial to the mission's success. Instead of simply reporting the anomaly, Sarah began analyzing the transmissions using advanced software she had learned to operate during her specialized training. Within an hour, she had broken the basic encryption and was monitoring real-time communications. What she discovered chilled her blood. The target wasn't just meeting with local contacts. He was coordinating a massive terrorist attack on a refugee camp housing over 10,000 displaced civilians. The attack was scheduled to begin in less than 18 hours. Sarah faced a dilemma that hadn't been covered in any training manual. Her team's orders were to observe and report. They weren't authorized to take direct action. But thousands of innocent lives hung in the balance. She made another decision that could have ended her career. She contacted Admiral Sullivan directly using a classified communication channel reserved for the most extreme emergencies. "Admiral, this is Martinez. I'm transmitting under Code Black authorization. We have discovered an imminent threat to civilian populations." Admiral Sullivan's voice crackled through the encrypted channel 30 minutes later. "Martinez, explain your situation." Sarah provided a complete briefing on what she had discovered. Admiral Sullivan listened without interruption, then asked several pointed questions about the intelligence and its reliability. "Martinez, you understand that you've potentially compromised your team's position by making this contact?" "Yes, ma'am. But I believe the potential loss of life justifies the risk." "Stand by." For the next 2 hours, Sarah monitored communications while her team maintained their surveillance. She could see Lieutenant Commander Thompson's concern about the extended mission duration, but he trusted her judgment enough to wait for her assessment. When Admiral Sullivan contacted her again, the news was both good and bad. Special Operations Command had authorized an immediate strike on the compound, but the nearest available strike team was 4 hours away, and intelligence indicated the terrorist operation would begin moving in 3 hours. "Martinez, I'm about to give you an order that goes against every protocol we have. Your team is authorized to conduct immediate interdiction of this threat. Confirm your team's capability to undertake this mission." Sarah looked around at her teammates. They were professionals, among the best in the world, but they were outnumbered at least 3-1 and had been inserted for reconnaissance, not assault. Their ammunition and equipment were limited. "Admiral, we can execute, but it will be extremely high risk." "Understood. The decision is yours to make locally. If you don't feel confident in success, we'll find another way." Sarah realized that Admiral Sullivan was placing enormous trust in her judgment. The lives of her teammates and thousands of civilians depended on her assessment of their capabilities. She looked at Lieutenant Commander Thompson. "Sir, we've just been authorized to stop a terrorist attack on a refugee camp. What's your assessment of our capabilities?" Thompson gathered his team leaders for a quick briefing. After 5 minutes of intense discussion, he returned to Sarah's position. "We can do it, but we'll need perfect intelligence and flawless communication coordination. Can you provide both?" "Yes, sir." The next 6 hours tested every skill Sarah had developed throughout her career. She coordinated with satellite surveillance, drone reconnaissance, and electronic warfare units to provide her team with real-time intelligence. She monitored enemy communications to track their movements and intentions. She established backup communication routes in case their primary systems were compromised. The assault began at sunset. Sarah watched through thermal imaging as her team moved with deadly precision through the compound. Her job was to guide them to their targets while monitoring for threats they couldn't see. "Bravo 1, you have 3 hostiles moving toward your position from the east corridor. Distance 50 meters and closing. Copy, Overwatch. We see them." "Charlie 2, there's a sniper on the roof of the building to your north, 3rd floor, eastern window." "Confirmed. Taking him out now." The operation unfolded like a deadly ballet, with Sarah serving as choreographer. She guided her teammates through the compound, helping them avoid ambushes and locate high-value targets. When Petty Officer Torres was wounded by shrapnel from a grenade, she coordinated his medical evacuation while maintaining communication with the rest of the team. The critical moment came when they reached the building where the terrorist commander was believed to be hiding. Sarah's electronic surveillance indicated at least 12 hostiles in defensive positions throughout the structure. "All units, this is Overwatch. Target building shows heavy resistance. Recommend you wait for air support." "Negative, Overwatch," Thompson replied. "We're out of time. They're starting to move the operation forward." Sarah watched helplessly as her teammates entered what amounted to a death trap. She could track their progress through the building, but there was little she could do to help them once they were inside. That's when she noticed something on her satellite feed. A fuel truck was parked behind the building, probably supplying the generator that powered the compound's communications equipment. Sarah had an idea that was either brilliant or suicidal. "Bear, this is Overwatch. Do you still have explosive charges?" "Affirmative. 2 charges remaining. There's a fuel truck directly behind your position. If you can place a charge on it, the explosion should create a distraction on the ground floor." "Roger that. Moving to place charge now." 2 minutes later, the explosion lit up the night sky. The blast was larger than anyone had anticipated, collapsing part of the building's rear wall and creating chaos among the defenders. Sarah's team used the confusion to complete their mission, capturing the terrorist commander and eliminating his key lieutenants. But the victory came at a cost. 3 team members were wounded, 1 seriously. The compound was now swarming with Syrian military units responding to the explosion. Sarah had to coordinate an emergency extraction while keeping her team alive. She worked with unprecedented intensity, managing communications with extraction helicopters, medical units, and command elements simultaneously. She guided the team to a landing zone while directing suppressive fire from circling aircraft. She provided medical guidance to help treat the wounded during the extraction. When the helicopters finally lifted off with all team members aboard, Sarah allowed herself a moment of relief, but the mission wasn't over yet. She spent the flight back to the ship coordinating with intelligence analysts to process the information they had captured. The debriefing lasted for hours. Sarah's unconventional decision-making and exceptional performance had saved thousands of civilian lives, but it had also raised questions about protocol and chain of command. Some officers questioned whether she had overstepped her authority. Lieutenant Commander Thompson put an end to such criticism during his formal report. Petty Officer Martinez performed with exceptional skill and courage throughout this operation. Her initiative and judgment were directly responsible for the mission's success and the survival of my team. I recommend her for immediate promotion and formal recognition. Master Chief Patterson was more direct in his assessment. Martinez, you've got the biggest brass I've ever seen on a communications specialist. You made decisions that could have gotten us all killed, but you made the right decisions. That takes guts and intelligence. You've earned your place on this team. The rest of the team's acceptance was less formal, but more meaningful. Petty Officer Torres, recovering from his wounds in the ship's medical bay, summed up their feelings best. You know what, Martinez? You're not trying to be one of the guys anymore. You are one of the guys. Hell, you're better than most of the guys. Sarah's reputation throughout naval special warfare reached new heights following the Syrian operation. She received the Navy Commendation Medal for her actions, but more importantly, she gained recognition as someone who could be trusted with the most critical missions. Over the next 18 months, she participated in operations across 3 continents. She helped coordinate the rescue of American hostages in Somalia. She provided communication support for anti-piracy operations in the Gulf of Aden. She assisted with humanitarian missions following natural disasters in the Philippines. Each mission brought new challenges and new opportunities to prove herself. Sarah approached every assignment with the same combination of technical expertise and intuitive problem-solving that had become her trademark. She never sought recognition or special treatment, focusing instead on helping her teammates accomplish their missions safely. Her reputation eventually reached the highest levels of Naval Special Warfare Command. Admiral Sullivan began assigning her to increasingly sensitive operations, including missions that required coordination with other government agencies and foreign military units. Martinez, Admiral Sullivan explained during one briefing, you've become our go-to specialist for complex communication challenges. Your ability to improvise solutions under pressure is exactly what we need for the most difficult operations. Sarah felt honored by the trust, but she also understood the weight of responsibility that came with it. Every decision she made could affect not just her immediate teammates, but entire operations involving hundreds of personnel. The pressure reached its peak during a joint operation with British Special Air Service units in Iraq. Sarah was tasked with coordinating communications between American and British forces, conducting simultaneous raids on terrorist safe houses in Baghdad. The operation required split-second timing and perfect coordination. Any miscommunication could result in friendly fire incidents or mission failure. Sarah spent weeks preparing, learning British communication protocols and establishing relationships with her counterparts. When the operation commenced, Sarah found herself managing the most complex communication challenge of her career. She coordinated between helicopter pilots, ground teams, intelligence analysts, and command elements from 2 different nations, all while maintaining security protocols and adapting to changing tactical situations. The mission succeeded brilliantly, with both teams achieving their objectives without casualties. But for Sarah, the real success was the message she received the next day from her British counterpart. Martinez, that was the finest communication coordination I've experienced in 12 years of special operations. Your professionalism and competence made a difficult mission look routine. It's been an honor working with you. Such recognition from elite international units further enhanced Sarah's reputation. She began receiving requests from commanders throughout the special operations community. Everyone wanted the communications specialist who could solve impossible problems while keeping everyone alive. But success brought new challenges. Sarah found herself increasingly isolated from normal military life. Her security clearances and specialized knowledge made casual friendships difficult. She couldn't discuss her work with anyone outside her immediate circle of colleagues. The isolation was compounded by the physical and emotional demands of her assignments. Sarah had been in combat situations dozens of times, had seen friends wounded and enemies killed, had made life-and-death decisions under extreme pressure. The cumulative stress was beginning to take its toll. Chief Petty Officer Chen, now serving as Sarah's mentor and informal counselor, recognized the signs. During a quiet moment between missions, he pulled her aside for a conversation that would prove crucial to her continued service. "Martinez, you've accomplished more in 5 years than most people accomplish in entire careers, but I'm concerned about you. You're carrying too much weight on your shoulders." "I'm fine, Chief. Just tired." "No, you're not fine. You're burning out, and that's dangerous for you and everyone around you. When was the last time you took leave? When was the last time you went home?" Sarah realized she couldn't remember the last time she had taken more than a few days off. Her entire life had become consumed by work, by missions, by the constant pressure to perform at the highest level. "Maybe you're right, Chief, but I can't stop now. There's too much work to do." "The work will always be there, Martinez. The question is whether you'll be able to do it effectively if you don't take care of yourself." Chief Chen's words forced Sarah to confront a truth she had been avoiding. Her dedication to her work had become an obsession that was affecting her judgment and her relationships. She needed to find a better balance if she wanted to continue serving effectively. Sarah requested a month of leave and returned home to Texas for the first time in over a year. Her mother was shocked by how thin and tired she looked, but she was also proud of the confident young woman her daughter had become. "Mija, you look like you carry the weight of the world on your shoulders," Rosa said on her first night home. "Sometimes it feels that way, Mama. Your father always said that the strongest people know when to set the weight down and rest. Maybe it's time for you to rest." Sarah spent the month reconnecting with her family, her hometown, and herself. She worked in her father's old garage, fixing engines and remembering why she had fallen in love with solving mechanical problems in the first place. She spent time with old friends who knew nothing about her military career and cared only about the person she was, not what she had accomplished. By the end of the month, Sarah felt refreshed and refocused. She understood that her work was important, but she also understood that she needed to maintain perspective if she wanted to continue serving effectively for years to come. When she returned to duty, her colleagues immediately noticed the change. She was more relaxed, more collaborative, more willing to delegate responsibilities to others. She had learned that being indispensable could actually make her less effective as a leader. This new perspective prepared her perfectly for the most challenging assignment of her career, one that would test every skill she had developed and every lesson she had learned about leadership, courage, and sacrifice. The call came at 0300 hours on a Tuesday morning in September. Chief Petty Officer Sarah Martinez was awakened in her quarters aboard the USS Wasp by the urgent buzzing of her secure communication device. The message was brief but chilling. "Report to SCIF immediately. Operation Nightfall is compromised." SCIF stood for Sensitive Compartmented Information Facility, a secure room where the most classified operations were planned and coordinated. Sarah dressed quickly and made her way through the ship's corridors, her mind racing through possibilities. Operation Nightfall was the code name for a massive joint operation involving multiple SEAL teams, Army Rangers, and International Special Forces units. The mission was ambitious beyond anything Sarah had previously encountered. Intelligence indicated that a major terrorist organization had acquired chemical weapons and was planning to deploy them simultaneously in 6 major cities across Europe and North America. The only way to prevent catastrophic loss of life was to conduct coordinated raids on all 6 locations within a 4-hour window. Admiral Sullivan was waiting in the SCF, along with senior officers from multiple branches of the military and representatives from allied nations. The atmosphere was tense, with quiet conversations happening in multiple languages around the secure conference table. "Martinez, we have a situation," Admiral Sullivan began without preamble. "Our primary communications coordinator for Operation Nightfall has suffered a massive heart attack. He's alive, but he won't be operational for months. We need someone who can step in immediately and coordinate communications for the most complex operation in Special Forces history." Sarah felt her stomach drop. The primary coordinator was Master Chief Douglas McReady, a legend in the special operations community with over 25 years of experience. He had coordinated operations involving hundreds of personnel across multiple continents. The idea of replacing him was both honor and terror. "Ma'am, I'm honored by your confidence, but this operation involves assets and protocols I've never worked with before." "Martinez, I wouldn't be asking if I didn't believe you could handle it," Admiral Sullivan replied. "You have 72 hours to prepare. Failure is not an option. Millions of lives depend on the success of this operation." The next 3 days were a blur of intensive preparation. Sarah immersed herself in operational plans that were staggering in their complexity. 6 teams would simultaneously assault targets in London, Paris, Berlin, New York, Washington, D.C., and Los Angeles. Each team would be supported by different military branches from different nations, all operating under different protocols and using different equipment. Sarah would be responsible for coordinating all communications from a command center aboard the USS Wasp, positioned in international waters in the North Atlantic. She would manage satellite communications, encrypted radio networks, real-time intelligence feeds, and emergency coordination protocols simultaneously. The weight of responsibility was overwhelming. Sarah studied intelligence reports until her eyes burned. She memorized call signs for dozens of units. She practiced operating communication systems she had never seen before. She rehearsed contingency procedures for every conceivable scenario. Chief Chen found her in the communications center at 0200 hours on her second night of preparation, surrounded by technical manuals and empty coffee cups. "Martinez, when was the last time you slept?" "I'll sleep after the operation, Chief." "No, you'll collapse during the operation if you don't rest now. That won't help anyone." Chen was right, but Sarah couldn't quiet her racing mind. The scope of what she was being asked to do seemed impossible. How could she coordinate operations involving hundreds of elite soldiers across 6 different time zones? "Chief, what if I'm not ready? What if I make a mistake that gets people killed?" Chen sat down beside her and spoke quietly. "Martinez, I've watched you grow from a nervous young sailor into one of the finest communication specialists I've ever known. You've succeeded in every challenge you've faced because you prepare thoroughly and trust your instincts. This operation is bigger, but the principles are the same. But if McReady couldn't handle it alone, how can I?" "McReady is a great coordinator, but he's from a different generation. He relies on established procedures and proven methods. You bring something different to the table. You see connections he might miss. You improvise solutions he might not consider. That's exactly what this operation needs." Chief Chen's words helped calm Sarah's nerves, but they didn't eliminate her concerns. She continued preparing with meticulous attention to detail, knowing that lives would depend on her ability to perform flawlessly under extreme pressure. The operation commenced at exactly 1800 hours GMT on a Friday evening. Sarah positioned herself at the primary coordination station, surrounded by banks of monitors displaying real-time feeds from around the world. Admiral Sullivan and other senior officers took positions at observer stations, ready to provide guidance if needed. "All units, this is Overwatch. Operation Nightfall is now active. Confirm your status." One by one, The responses came in from teams positioned around the globe. Each confirmation brought Sarah both relief and increased tension. The operation was beginning exactly as planned, but the real challenges lay ahead. London team, confirmed ready. Paris team, confirmed ready. Berlin team, confirmed ready. New York team, confirmed ready. Washington team, confirmed ready. Los Angeles team, confirmed ready. For the first hour, everything proceeded smoothly. Teams moved into their assault positions without detection. Intelligence feeds confirmed that targets were still present at all 6 locations. Weather conditions were acceptable for all operations. Then the first complication arose. The London team reported unexpected security at their target location. Instead of the anticipated 6 guards, they were observing at least 15 heavily armed personnel. London team, this is Overwatch. Confirm your count of hostile personnel. Overwatch. We count 15 hostiles with automatic weapons. Looks like they're expecting trouble. Sarah's mind raced through implications. If one target had increased security, the others might as well. The entire operation could be walking into a trap, but there was no time for extensive reconnaissance. Intelligence indicated that the chemical weapons would be deployed within hours if the raids didn't proceed. All teams, this is Overwatch. Be advised that target security may be higher than anticipated. Proceed with extreme caution. The warnings proved prescient. Within minutes, teams in Paris and Berlin reported similar increases in security. Someone had tipped off the terrorist organization, but not in time for them to evacuate their weapons caches. Sarah made a critical decision. Instead of proceeding with the synchronized assault, she recommended staggered attacks based on each team's specific situation. Teams facing lighter resistance would strike first, potentially distracting enemy resources from the more heavily defended targets. Admiral, I recommend we modify the timeline. Some teams are ready to strike now, others need more time to adapt to increased resistance. Admiral Sullivan nodded grimly. Your call, Martinez. Coordinate as you see fit. The next 2 hours tested every skill Sarah had developed throughout her career. She managed 6 separate operations simultaneously, adapting to changing conditions and coordinating support assets in real time. The New York team struck first, overwhelming their target in a lightning assault that captured both the chemical weapons and several high-value prisoners. The success provided intelligence that Sarah immediately shared with other teams. All units, New York has secured chemical weapons cache. Weapons are deployed in aerosol containers designed for subway system deployment. Be advised your targets may have similar devices. The intelligence proved crucial for the Washington team, which used the information to prioritize their targets within the compound. They located and secured the chemical weapons before the terrorists could activate deployment mechanisms. But the European operations faced more serious challenges. The Paris team encountered heavy resistance and had to call for emergency support. Sarah coordinated with French Special Forces to provide additional personnel and air support. Paris support. This is Overwatch. Paris team needs immediate assistance. Can you provide helicopter gunship support to coordinates I'm transmitting now? Overwatch. This is Paris support. Gunships are airborne and moving to assist. The Berlin operation encountered an even more serious problem. Intelligence indicated that the terrorists had begun preparing their chemical weapons for immediate deployment. The team had to assault before they were fully prepared, accepting significant additional risk. Sarah watched the Berlin assault unfold on multiple camera feeds, knowing that she was witnessing one of the most dangerous operations in Special Forces history. The team fought through heavy resistance to reach the chemical weapons, but they arrived to find terrorist personnel attempting to activate deployment systems. Berlin team, this is Overwatch. Recommend immediate deployment of chemical detection equipment. Hostile personnel may have activated weapons systems. Copy, Overwatch. We're seeing evidence of chemical release. Need immediate hazmat support. Sarah's blood ran cold. If chemical weapons had been released in Berlin, the operation had failed in the worst possible way. She immediately contacted German emergency services while coordinating medical support for the assault team. German emergency services, this is U.S. naval operations. We have potential chemical weapons release in Berlin. Need immediate hazmat response to coordinates I'm transmitting. The next 30 minutes were the longest of Sarah's career. She coordinated emergency medical treatment for potentially exposed personnel while monitoring the other operations still in progress. The London team was still fighting to reach their target. The Los Angeles team had encountered unexpected resistance. Then came the news that saved the operation. The Berlin team reported that they had interrupted the chemical weapon deployment before it became effective. Some chemical material had been released, but not enough to cause mass casualties. Emergency personnel were treating 3 team members for minor exposure, but all would recover fully. All teams, this is Overwatch. Berlin team has successfully prevented chemical weapon deployment. Weapons are secured. One by one, the remaining teams reported success. The London team overcame heavy resistance to capture their target intact. The Los Angeles team used innovative tactics to neutralize threats while preserving evidence of the terrorist plot. By 0300 hours the following morning, all 6 operations had concluded successfully. The chemical weapons had been secured, key terrorist leaders had been captured, and the planned attacks had been prevented. The operation had succeeded despite complications that could have led to catastrophic failure. Admiral Sullivan's voice crackled through Sarah's headset as the last team reported mission completion. Outstanding work, Martinez. That was some of the finest operational coordination I've witnessed in 30 years of military service. But the real validation came from the team leaders themselves. Over the following hours, Sarah received personal thanks from commanders around the world. Each expressed amazement at her ability to adapt to changing conditions while maintaining coordination across such a complex operation. Lieutenant Commander Morrison, now leading the London team, sent a message that Sarah would treasure for the rest of her career. Martinez, your coordination saved my team and probably thousands of innocent lives. You have my deepest respect and gratitude. The debriefing took place over several days, with representatives from multiple nations analyzing every aspect of the operation. Sarah's performance received unanimous praise from military leaders and intelligence officials. General Patricia Hayes, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, personally commended Sarah's actions. Chief Martinez, your performance during Operation Nightfall represents the finest tradition of American military service. Your ability to coordinate such a complex operation under extreme pressure was extraordinary. But for Sarah, the highest honor came when Admiral Sullivan made an unprecedented announcement. Chief Martinez, effective immediately, you are being promoted to Senior Chief Petty Officer. Additionally, you are being transferred to a new position as Senior Communications Coordinator for all Naval Special Warfare operations. The promotion meant that Sarah would be responsible for training the next generation of communications specialists while continuing to coordinate the most sensitive operations. It was a position of enormous responsibility and recognition. More significantly, Admiral Sullivan had another announcement. Chief Martinez, you are also being recommended for the Navy Cross for your actions during Operation Nightfall. Your heroic coordination under enemy fire saved countless American and Allied lives. Sarah felt overwhelmed by the recognition, but she also felt the weight of new responsibilities. As she prepared to take on her new role, she reflected on the journey that had brought her to this point. From a small-town girl working in her father's garage to a senior leader in America's most elite military units, she had consistently proven that determination and competence could overcome any barrier. She had earned the respect of warriors and commanders through her actions, not her words. But Sarah understood that her greatest contribution might be in training others to follow in her footsteps. The military was changing, and it needed leaders who could adapt to new challenges while maintaining the highest standards of performance. 3 months later, Sarah stood in the Naval Special Warfare Command headquarters in San Diego, preparing to address a group of newly graduated communications specialists. These young men and women would carry forward the traditions she had helped establish. "Today you begin careers that will test every skill you possess," she told them. "You will be responsible for the lives of America's finest warriors. You will make decisions that affect operations around the world. The responsibility is enormous, but so is the opportunity to serve." She paused, thinking about her father's words about her hands, seeing what her eyes could not. "Each of you possesses unique talents and perspectives. Don't try to be someone else. Trust your training, trust your instincts, and never forget that your primary mission is bringing everyone home safely." As Sarah looked out at the eager faces of her students, she felt proud of how far she had come and excited about the challenges ahead. She had proven that excellence knows no boundaries, that determination can overcome any obstacle, and that respect must be earned through actions rather than demanded through words. The girl who had once taken apart radios in her father's garage had become a leader who could coordinate the most complex military operations in the world. But more importantly, she had become someone who could inspire others to achieve their own greatness. Sarah Martinez had found her place in the world, and in doing so, she had helped change the world for the better. Her story was proof that when someone enters silently, but carries themselves with competence and integrity, even the most elite warriors will straighten up and take notice. Years later, when young military personnel asked about the legendary Senior Chief Martinez, veterans would smile and tell them about the day a quiet young woman entered the SEAL training facility and proved that greatness comes in many forms. They would explain that she never demanded respect, never claimed special treatment, never asked for anything except the opportunity to serve. And when she had earned that respect through her actions, when she had proven her worth beyond any doubt, when she had saved lives and completed impossible missions, the entire special operations community recognized what they had witnessed, the emergence of a leader whose impact would be felt for generations. Sarah Martinez had indeed entered silently, but her legacy would echo through the halls of Naval Special Warfare Command forever, inspiring countless others to pursue their own excellence regardless of the barriers they might face. The story of the woman who made the SEALs straighten up and salute was really the story of what becomes possible when talent meets opportunity, when preparation meets challenge, and when quiet competence speaks louder than any words ever could.